Hi, I'm Celeste and welcome to Find Your Purple. Well, I made it. Today is August 31st, which is the last day of Veda, a video every day in the month of August. Now I'm going to try to be regular, but definitely not every day. But I thought I would continue with the Bible and mention Isaiah. That's where I'm reading right now. Again, I'm doing it in chronological order, so I hop around with Isaiah and Kings and Chronicles, but today was Isaiah. And I was at chapter 53 in Isaiah before I really did much in the way of highlighting. The Old Testament's a little bit tough for me, and I think for a lot of new believers. It was disturbing the first time I read it. There's still some stories in it that are hard to read, and a lot of it I can't say I understand some of the messages in it. But now that I've read through the Bible once and got through the New Testament and Revelations and now come back, the Old Testament is really making a little more sense. I can see now how it ties with the New Testament. The New Testament refers back to the Old Testament many, many times, and many of the stories parallel. So this time through is making a lot more sense. But in Isaiah, it wasn't until chapter 53 that I kind of started connecting with it. And chapter 53 is where Isaiah prophesies about Jesus' death. And that's hundreds and hundreds of years before Jesus was born. And he talks about his wounds and his pierced. He'll be pierced and he'll be despised and he'll suffer and he'll be quiet through all of it. And it was many things that actually came to pass in Jesus' crucifixion. And I had been listening to a Messianic rabbi who is a Jewish rabbi who believes that Jesus is the Savior. And he made the comment that even though Isaiah is in, I think it's the Torah, chapter 53 is not read. And he had not read it until after he became a believer. And that it very clearly in his mind shows that Isaiah's prophecy about the Messiah is Jesus. Because in the Jewish faith, they know Jesus lived. They acknowledge his crucifixion, but they don't acknowledge that he was the Savior. So chapter 53 tied in with that sermon I had listened to with this particular rabbi. Sorry, I can't remember his name offhand. But then I get to chapter 58, and in 58 it talks about fasting, and it talks about keeping the Sabbath. And Isaiah is saying in here, speaking for God, that if you're going to fast, you got to do it right. That there is no value in fasting and saying you're doing it for God and expecting it to help you get an intercession with God or anything like that if you turn around and are rude to the waitress or live in a non-Christian way, or cheating on your spouse, or doing something else that's non-Jesus-like. And so he pretty much just says, don't waste your time. If you're going to fast, do it right. And by doing it right, it would mean that you're living a Christ-like life, and that you are being true, walking like Jesus did. And they talk about the Sabbath too. Don't complain about the Sabbath. Take it as joyfully, that this is your day for focusing on God. And I've been in the last several weeks honoring the Sabbath on Sunday as much as possible. I don't watch TV and I don't read fiction. I try to stay focused on things that are inspirational about my faith, or prayer, or some biographies or autobiographies of people strong in the faith and their journeys. But it tells, if you're going to do Sabbath, again, it doesn't matter. You can honor Sabbath all you want, but the truth and the realness about if you are a Christian or not is walking the walk, being Jesus-like. And there's so many people that think of Sunday as you go to church, you put in that hour, and then you head home and life is no different. And that's not the point. That's not even the point of going to church. I think any pastor or priest or rabbi, anyone saying going to a service is not what it's about. If that's what you think being of the faith is about, then you're missing the boat. So I did some highlighting and underlining in chapter 58. And the other thing it says on the Sabbath, and this is in chapter 58, is if you honor it by not going your own way and not doing as you please or speaking idle words, then you will find joy in the Lord. So it's, again, I think if everyone that's out there that says they're a Christian actually would live like a Christian, oh boy, it'd be a lot better place. God created the Israelites, and ultimately that expanded into the Gentiles and allowed us all to be saved because he wanted people to live like Jesus did and be righteous and be held up to a different standard. And yet today, sometimes, I've told you before that saying I'm born again Christian is a little bit hard to swallow sometimes because I've been so turned off by so many so-called Christians. And there are people out there who say they're a Christian and yet they don't walk the walk, whether it's cheating on their spouse or gambling or lying or being unethical in work or just being ugly with people. That's not a true Christian. Now, I'm not going to be able to point to people and say you are or you aren't. I don't know their heart, but I do know if they're acting in a way that doesn't feel like that is what Jesus would do, then they're missing the point of the faith. And God knows who's real a Christian. Even God says in the Bible, some people are going to be really surprised at who ends up in heaven at the end. So I've just got to be careful that I'm on the right side of the tracks at the time, and I am going to do my best to walk the walk. That's it for today, and that's it for August. The end of August, it's hard to believe it's almost September. So, as always, grab your cup of tea, sit back, and let's start sharing. Until next time, bye-bye.